It's a little bit of a misunderstood decade. It's people I think have confused the pop culture of the '80s, which is unassailably fun, with the the actual culture of the '80s, the real life culture, the IRL culture of the '80s, which was very confused and violent and pretty crazy. Unless you've lived in certain spots, like I would have loved to have lived. I grew up in the '80s, and I would have loved to have lived in like Southern California. I dreamed of living in Southern California because movies sold it so well, and then you see documentaries made about that time, and it looks even better. There's a great one called All American High School. Um, yeah, an interesting time, but very a lot of crime, a lot of violent. Generation X was like a very violent generation. They're almost like they were teenagers at the time, and like I was thinking about this the other day. That like, let's see, I think 3 or 4 kids I knew growing up committed like crazy wild murders. Like one of them like killed his parents and like dumped them in the Mississippi River, and that was I knew him as a kid. I knew that guy as a kid, and he was like a funny little bastard, like a little bit like Tanner from the Bad News Bears, and not the kind of kid I thought would have grown up into commit homicide, double homicide. So yeah, there was a kind of spiritual desolation to a lot of it. Um, we had a local arcade in town. But as a kid, it was tough to go to because there's like this prison yard uh, craziness where like you were gonna get like robbed and shaken down for quarters, and you're gonna get beaten up by the older kids or the hoods. That was like our name for like lower class kids who were violent, then the upper class kids were called the preps, and it was a lot like the Outsiders. It was like that, and so yeah, you couldn't go to that arcade, but there was a town about 30 miles away, and they had a good arcade. They had a pretty cool arcade. You weren't going to get really beat up in there. It was mostly like it was in the mall. A lot of college kids went to it. I remember. The first time I saw like Double Dragon, the game machine, and like what is this? Like having my mind blown that someone had made this, and it was like the coolest thing ever to me because it sort of combined elements of like Walter Hill's The Warriors, which I thought was cool, and even a little bit of maybe Escape from New York, but just various movies I really liked seemed to be and then the whole idea of like fighting street gangs, and there was also this kind of like thrill of social irresponsibility with it because it's a game that lets you like punch women in the face. You're fighting like minorities and stuff. There's a certain political incorrectness to it that's maybe predates some of the more stuff like Grand Theft Auto or something. And so yeah, it was like a blast. It was really cool to see it to play that. And yeah, I remember. I would go in, and play, and you could play 2 players, and the older college kids would, cause some of them would just be like, hey man, here, keep playing, dude, like, and they give you, put quarters in so you can keep playing, or that did it for me anyway. And he's like, yeah, keep going, man. And so I was like, yeah, that's great. And then, and I'm like, wait a minute, are you a child molester? And he's like, no, no. Well, I don't care anyway. Just give me more quarters. No, but yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. And so yeah, that was the first beat 'em up game I had ever seen. And I know that there's a game called Renegade that they made that later came out on the Nintendo, and that kind of predates it. But as far as I'm concerned, like Double Dragon was the first and the kind of gold standard, and just really melted my brain when I saw it.